to the second track parser tutorial. In the first tutorial, we learned the initial way to use the track parser and how to download the waypoints and in general just how the track parser works to break your trip up into different legs and the data it gives you. In that first tutorial, we did a fairly simple track. It was a bike ride that went as a loop. What we're going to cover in this tutorial is more difficult tracks. The two most difficult tracks to deal with, and that will give you a good idea of how to deal with any problems in your tracks, are a track that goes there and back, where your return trip can overlay on your initial trip out to a venue. The other trip we're going to work on is an alpine trip where at times the party was going quite slowly in technical climbing, and there was a lot of noise in the track that can throw off the track accuracy. We'll start with the there and back. On this map here, I have a trip where the group was going up to ski in an area. We skinned up a trail and skied back down the same trail except for a short section near the start-finish area. As you can see in this pulled out view, the track is hard to distinguish which way is in and which way is out. So the first part of the track parser, if you remember, when we choose our file, we get a smoothed version of that track. And we download that smooth version. What I have here in the map is that smooth version. And that smooth version has arrows on it. And it's directional. And that's specifically to help you deal with overlaid tracks like this, where the trip is a there and back rather than a circular trip like in the first tutorial. And you can see the difficulty here in pulling out your track points. Now, as you come closer, as you blow up the map, you can better see that differentiation between going in to the ski area, this was a ski trip, and coming back out and skiing back down. I've put a track point here to illustrate some of the problems you might run into. This track point is actually poorly placed. As you can see, I have it in edit mode right now. I can pull it away. As you can see, I had it on a very straight line part of the track on a return from what is known as the South Snowfields here. Now the track parser and your track work on waypoints that are connected by a line. So the track parser is looking at these track points or individual waypoints that are connected by a line. So this straight line here, where I had my marker first placed, actually has no track points. The track points are either side of it where there's a little kink or turn in the track. The track parser is designed to find the nearest point, the nearest track point to the marker. So as you can see, right above the marker here is a little kink in the track where there is a track point. So what the track parser will do is it will use that as the point of reference. And what this will do is if you put a marker out of order, so if you're going, let's say, from point A to point B and put a marker there, and then the next marker is supposed to go from point B to point C, but it goes back towards point A and then back towards C, the track parser will throw an error, and you'll get an error message when you go to download your waypoints. And that's exactly what would happen here. Because of the marker placement, the track parser is likely to pick up this kink here rather than either one on the sides of this marker. So when you're doing there and back trips, it's important to pick your spots where you put your markers and put them as close or right onto these kinks in the track. So a place like this, the track parser will work reasonably well. Although it's perilously close to this one, it's likely to pick up the correct track point. And if I blow this up a little bit, right there would probably be better, because you can see there's a track point there, and the overlapping track is actually a straight line with no other track points. Probably the best place to put this marker would be in this area, because it's furthest away from the competing track, if you will. It just depends on how close to where you want to break up that leg is the cleanest spot to put your marker. It's important to place your marker on these kinks or slight turns and as accurately as possible. Arguably, there and back trips require a little bit more time to place your track points and can be a bit more tedious. But with a little practice and the use of the CalTopo magnifying feature here, it's pretty easy to get your track points in and get a good, accurate measurement and breakdown of your trip. Just remember that there and back trips require some precision in your track points, in your markers, to put them right on the track points or as close as possible so that you don't get an error. If you get an error, the key to that is to delete your waypoint file and just look at your waypoints again and try to find the waypoint that is causing the problem. Edit that one and then download your waypoint file again. There's no need to rebuild all the waypoints. You just need to find the one that's causing the error and fix that one, and then download your waypoints from CalTopo. And so it's not critical. It's not like all your work will be lost, but it does get a little frustrating when you throw an error like that. I'll talk more about errors and how to manage your waypoints and file editing and things like that in the tips, tricks, and hacks tutorial, which is the third tutorial in this series. So hopefully this will help you deal with there and back trips. The next problem we're going to run into are more alpine trips. And I have this one completely set up at this point. And with our track points, I'm going to do a little bit of editing here. I'm going to unclick all the legs first, just so you can see the original two lines. Now this is the Torment Forbidden Traverse from high camp to high camp, and it's broken down into quite a few legs. As you can see, I've got up to 20 here. But as you can imagine, on a trip like this, there's quite a bit of error. I'm also going to unclick the markers so you can see what the line originally looked like. Now with a track like this, you're going to get a lot of errors. Looking at the traverse, you can see how it zigzags off the ridge quite a bit. And each time it does that, that's going to be elevation error and distance error. You'll also see that at the rest points, there's quite a bit of bouncing around that the GPS does that both adds distance and elevation. So you're not going to get accurate data from your track if you parse it out looking like this. And this is the smoothed version. If I click on the unsmoothed version, it's actually a little worse, although the party was going relatively slow on this, and there's only so much smoothing that the smoothing function can do. If it smooths it out too much, there's not enough kinks in the track to place your waypoints on when you need an accurate placement, like we covered in the there and back section of this tutorial. So what Track Parser does is it will straighten out these lines through the use of key phrases that you use at your start point. So what you'll notice on the legs here, and they're ordered a little funny. I'm going to unclick so we have a clear map. I'll click leg 1, and then I'll click leg 2, which comes after the teens, and then I'll click leg 3, which comes after the 20s. And you'll notice that leg 1 I kept exactly as the original or the smoothed out version came out. And the reason for that is that's mostly hiking, although the team was moving a little slowly. You can see there's going to be some errors. But the errors aren't horrible. In the next leg, leg 2, you can see I changed it from a pretty horrible line. You can see how there's an errant waypoint that goes all the way up to the top of the ridge here and then back down and all sorts of zigzagging. And so what I did is I corrected that through the use of a key phrase. And I'll click on the markers here to show you what I'm talking about. If I click on this marker, you'll see, let me edit it. I wrote getting to the base of torment, and then in parentheses, and the parentheses are key here, I have the words fix up. And so if your leg is going uphill, you use the term fix up. And what that will do is draw a straight line from your start point to your finish point. And it will only measure the altitude change between those 2 points. So now you just get an altitude change. So you should try to do this only when the track is basically going straight uphill. We'll also have one for straight downhill, for instance, like a rappel descent, but not for up and down, because you'll lose that elevation gain up and down, because you'll only get the differential between the start point and the finish point. And so it'll only pick up the altitude change. Again, for the third leg, you can see that I straightened out the line, and that again was a fix up because it was going slightly uphill. Okay, so you can see right here, I used the key phrase fix up. I'll click the smoothed off again. And I've got leg 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to click all the legs on at this point and just click off the smooth and the original so you can see along with the way markers that I put or the waypoints that I put, so you can see how I used the 3 key phrases: fix up, fix down, and fix stop to correct for the errors in the track. So we'll get all these highlighted. And I've now unclicked the smooth, and you can see I fixed quite a bit of the traverse here. Now, for the up and down, it'll draw a straight line. But for the transitions or the stops, the rests, it leaves the line in a zigzag so you can see the area better where you stopped. So this was a stop, and if you look at the start point of that, so rest at the start of the traverse, and I use the key phrase fix stop. What that'll do is it zeroes out the distance. So when I click on that, okay, you'll see I'll have the time, but as far as distance is concerned in the spreadsheet, distance, elevation gain will be zeroed out. Like I said, for the fix up, distance will be that straight line distance, and the elevation gain will be calculated by the altitude change between the start point and the finish point. Now, as you can remember in the original tutorial, there were 2 ways of measuring elevation. There was the GPS and there was the SRTM, the Shuttle Radar Topography Mission. The altitude change that the track parser uses to create that elevation gain in a fix up or fix down key phrase is the GPS's. So there may be some error, but it'll give you a good idea of the distance and the elevation gain or loss over time. So you can see here I fixed quite a bit, and I created my rest zones. There's actually a short rest zone at the top of Forbidden here, and because there was such good reception, I believe, at the top of Forbidden, there wasn't as much reception with the satellites, probably more satellites over the horizon, and it was just by chance. There wasn't as much dither, so if I click the smooth, you can see it's a very, very little bit of bouncing around, and the original, you can see it a little bit there, how it tracks back. So oftentimes when you're looking for your rest spots, because you've done this trip, you know where you rested and you can pick either side. You'll see a little bit of dither. Okay, so from here, what I did is I kept the track original for the descent from Forbidden, because that seemed reasonable, to the top of the rappels. And then at this marker, I use the key phrase fixed or fix down. Now, it's not case sensitive, but it does require the parentheses for the track parser to know. I use the parentheses so that if for some reason you use that term, fix down for something, or fix up for something, that has nothing to do with the track parser, some weird trail name or something just happenstance, you won't accidentally correct when you don't want to. So the parentheses make sure that it's willful, that you want to fix the track. You can see the team repelled to the start of the east ledges, and then I kept the track intact. I didn't fix it. Then I did a stop. All the fixed stops will be red. And then I continued down to camp without fixing it. In the end, where and what you fix is up to you. How you manage your stopping areas is up to you, whether you want to segregate them or include them as part of one of the legs. This track parser is very customizable. And so with the key phrases of fix up, fix down, or fix stop, it allows you to straighten out the lines and get as accurate a data as possible on your trips. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope these little features of Track Parser allow you to get better and more accurate data to help you on future trips, and so that you can share your information with other friends or colleagues who are planning on doing similar trips. Thanks again for using the Track Parser, and I look forward to speaking with you about the trips, tips, and hacks, the final tutorial in this 3 tutorial for the Track Parser.